Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more. Tuesday morning found Ethan wide awake at sunrise after a restless night. He lay in bed, watching the minute hand crawl around the face of his clock. He heard his dad leave for work at 7:30. A few minutes later, he got out of bed and dressed. After a quick breakfast, he rode his bike straight to Jennifer's house. "Hi Ethan. I'm glad you came. I missed you yesterday," she said. "I thought you'd be here today, so I have some outfits laid out for you on my bed. You can pick any dress or skirt and blouse you want." Ethan headed down the hall to her bedroom, where he found a lovely selection of lingerie on the bed and the blonde wig on her dresser. The panties were made of cream-colored satin, adorned with fancy flowers on the front panel. The bra was just as intricate, featuring plenty of lace, and the slip was equally beautiful. The materials felt delightful as they slid over his skin. He put on the wig and went across the hall to do his makeup. He managed a decent job, feeling a bit naughty walking around in a slip. The dress he chose was fitted at the waist with a flaring skirt that created the illusion of hips. He spent the day indulging in girl things, such as watching soap operas on TV, listening to popular music on the radio, and just hanging out. Mrs. Lewis returned home at 5 p.m. "Oh hi, Ellie. I'm glad you could make it today," she said. "Jennifer was really disappointed when you couldn't come yesterday. He was invited to dinner, and of course, he helped prepare and clean up afterward." That evening, he summoned his courage and spoke to Jennifer about what had kept him awake the last 2 nights. "Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure, you're practically my best friend." "It's kind of unusual for a boy to pretend to be a girl, isn't it?" "Yeah, I guess so. Is that your personal question?" "No, I was wondering why you and your mother are so willing to not only let me do this, but actually encourage me." "Oh, that question isn't too personal, but the answer might be." "What answer?" Mrs. Lewis asked, walking in from the kitchen. Ellie was wondering why we like it when he's Ellie. It's a fair question and deserves a fair answer." "Wait here." She left the room and returned shortly with a photo album. "In here is a family member you haven't met. It's a shame, too. Well, look first, and I'll explain after." She opened the album. This is Harriet. The first page showed a little girl about 7 or 8 years old, wearing a white taffeta dress and a large floppy-brimmed hat adorned with a long yellow ribbon streaming behind her. The next page featured a slightly older Jennifer with that same girl, playing on a backyard swing set. As they flipped through the pages, both Jennifer and Harriet grew older. The last page contained a recent photo of Jennifer in the swimsuit she had gotten last summer, which Ethan had seen at the park swimming pool, where other girls had asked her about it. "She's a good-looking girl." "Who is she?" "Ellie. The reason I said it's a shame you two haven't met is that you and Harriet have a lot in common." "We do." "Yes. Harriet is Jennifer's little brother." "Little brother?" "Yes. You see, when Harry was 7, he decided to try on Jennifer's clothes. When I found him, he had the most awful combination on a blue-green blouse and a purple skirt. I told him that if he wanted to wear her clothes, he'd have to learn to color coordinate them. I suggested he stick to dresses until he figured out which colors matched. I helped him pick out a dress and introduced Harriet to Jennifer. They hit it off. Unfortunately, his father didn't take kindly to his son becoming his daughter. Yeah, my dad isn't too thrilled about it either. He kept to himself while I was learning to be a girl. Well, my husband gave me an ultimatum. Either I ensure Harriet never visited again or he would divorce me. When I first discovered Harriet, I did some research and found that once a boy begins to enjoy wearing girls' clothes, he rarely stops for good. The worst thing that can happen is for his family to berate him for it, which causes deep-seated guilt that haunts him for life. I wanted Harriet to grow up well-adjusted, but try as I might, I couldn't convince my husband that allowing it was necessary for his emotional health. He carried out his threat. During the divorce, He showed the judge pictures I had taken of Harriet and requested custody of Harry. He claimed I was corrupting him and asked the judge to protect Harry from me. At this point, she began to cry, and Jennifer took her hand. I'm sorry. That was only 3 years ago. It still hurts. Fortunately, my lawyer was skilled. While my husband won full custody, I get Harriet for 1 week each year. At his father's house, he sneaks his stepmother's clothes, living in fear of being caught. But while he's with us, he has the freedom to be Harriet. Now you two, calm down. You've barely been together 30 seconds and already getting on each other's nerves. Why can't you cooperate and get along like you did before Halloween? Sometimes I think I should put you back in a dress, Ethan. At least then, you two wouldn't bother each other. Is it okay if I go over there tomorrow for the day or not? If you and your sister can't get along, you might as well. However, I think I should talk to Jennifer's mother. Do you have her phone number? Yeah, she gave it to me in case I ever needed to stay home from school. Ethan retrieved the number from his room. What's her last name? Lewis. Hello, Mrs. Lewis. This is Mrs. Baker, Ethan's mother. I just wanted to confirm that Ethan is invited to come over tomorrow. Good, I always like to check these things, especially when he's visiting a young lady's house. Yes, we should definitely do that. Maybe at the next school function. Okay, thank you so much. Bye. She seems quite impressed with you, Jennifer's mother commented. She mentioned that you're very well-mannered and helpful, and that you're welcome anytime. Jennifer greeted Ethan at the door at 7:45. He was dressed and in the kitchen just in time to help set the table. By 8:15, Jennifer, her mother, and Ellie were enjoying French toast. You know, Ellie, I think blue is your color. That dress has never looked so good on Jennifer. Thank you. It's a lovely dress. Jennifer is lucky to have so many nice clothes. After breakfast, helpful Ethan washed the dishes while Jennifer dried. Around 9:30, Mrs. Lewis left for the mall, leaving Ellie and Jennifer to prepare lunch. Ethan endured yet another photo session. In just 3 days, he had been the subject of enough pictures to fill 4 rolls of film. Mrs. Lewis returned around 3:30. Did you two girls have fun while I was gone? Aha! I took more pictures of Ellie, Jennifer replied. Well, if you took many more, we'll need to get an album dedicated to Ellie, her mother laughed. Ethan stayed for dinner that evening as well. As he was about to leave, Mrs. Lewis stopped him. You know, dear, you're one of the nicest girls among all of Jennifer's friends. You're welcome to come over any day during the Christmas break. Jennifer gets quite bored while I'm at work. Mom, do you mean Ellie or Ethan? Well, I hardly know Ethan, just those few minutes on Saturday. I can't say what kind of person he is, but Ellie is a delightful young lady. Ethan returned home excited about the prospect of visiting Jennifer during the Christmas break. However, doubts began to creep in on Sunday night. Why was Mrs. Lewis so quick to accept him as Ellie? Why was he so eager to dress up and be Ellie? Was something wrong with him? Were there other boys who did this kind of thing? He had trouble sleeping. On Monday, he called Jennifer and made up an excuse for not coming over. He had too many unanswered questions. He spent most of the day in his room, looking at the pictures that Ellie had given him. He found it hard to explain how he felt about them. Looking at them made him smile, wearing a dress made him happy. But why? Then there was the contradiction between how he felt and how he behaved. As Ethan, he was a typical jock. He enjoyed football, basketball, baseball, and roughhousing. Ask him to carry someone else's glass to the kitchen, and he would be offended. After all, housework was women's work, and he wasn't a sissy. But as Ellie, he willingly pitched in with chores like washing the dishes. During practice sessions, he had even done laundry, vacuumed, and dusted. He was deeply involved in women's work, and it felt natural. He recalled the initial reluctance he felt when the idea was first suggested, but then remembered the thrill of trying on the dresses after his mother had left him alone. Combining that with the excitement of wearing panties and the feel of a dress rustling against a slip as it brushed his legs made him feel alive. He needed to talk to someone. But who? His mother thought he had only dressed up for 3 short weekends, and she didn't even know about the panties and pantyhose. Claire was out of the question. Their relationship had only improved when she was training him to be a girl. His dad would be furious if he admitted that he liked his Halloween costume, let alone that he had continued to dress up afterward. He felt trapped. The only people he could count on for sympathy would be Jennifer and her mother. Could he admit to them that he genuinely enjoyed wearing girls' clothes? Oh my God. He really did like wearing girls' clothes. Was that even possible? Oh yes, he definitely did. It was a shocking realization. He truly wanted to go over to Jennifer's. In fact, even if Jennifer hadn't convinced her mother to give him permission, he would have gone anyway. Hadn't he already been involved in sneaking the experience? He faced another sleepless night. Tuesday morning found Ethan wide awake at sunrise after a restless night. He lay in bed, watching the minute hand crawl around the face of his clock. He heard his dad leave for work at 7:30. A few minutes later, he got out of bed and dressed. After a quick breakfast, he rode his bike straight to Jennifer's house. They would have. The janitor did. The only mistake you made was not spending some time in front of the mirror before heading back. If you have to go today, be sure to take me with you. Just follow my lead. They had a great time playing in the snow, and sure enough, he eventually had to go. When he told Jennifer, she calmly led him right into the ladies' room. She took one stall while he took the other. After removing his faux fur-lined coat, he hung it on the hook behind the door. As he began to pull down his pants, he recalled Jennifer's whispered advice from earlier, remember to sit. He settled onto the seat and relieved himself, hearing toilet paper being pulled from the stall next to him. Unsure why, he felt compelled to do the same. After pulling up his panties, petipants, and stirrup pants, he flushed the toilet and put on his coat. Jennifer was at the counter washing her hands when he joined her. After she finished, she leaned in slightly, appraising her reflection before producing a brush and lightly smoothing her hair. "Wanna borrow my brush?" she asked, offering it to him. They had decided on his natural hair today since he would be wearing a hooded coat for most of the day. He brushed his hair a little, though he wasn't sure why. Jennifer hadn't made any noticeable changes to her own hair. The whole experience in the restroom had pushed his acting skills to the limit. He was so tense that he almost couldn't relax enough to do what he needed to do. Yet, no woman or girl in the restroom seemed to notice anything unusual. After that, Ethan learned how to style his own hair like a girl's. It felt much more natural than wearing a wig. During spring break, Ethan's family visited his uncle's mountain cabin for some high lake fishing. While he normally enjoyed fishing with his dad, he found himself daydreaming about what he would be doing if they had stayed home. Each time he thought about it, he imagined Ellie and Jennifer doing something really fun together. One afternoon, after lunch, he and Claire went for a walk and discovered a patch of late snow. They had a blast throwing snowballs at each other, which reminded Ethan of the snowy day he had spent with Jennifer. Without thinking, he slipped back into his Ellie persona. The last time he had played like this with Claire, he had been quite aggressive. This time, however, he felt light-hearted, just as he had been with Jennifer. Instead of packing the snow tightly into hard balls, he made them light so they wouldn't hurt when they hit. When they finished, Ethan threw his arms around Claire and gave her a big hug. She was taken aback by his unexpected show of affection. Throughout the rest of the day, Claire looked at him strangely whenever she thought he wouldn't notice, puzzled by why he had hugged her so affectionately. He hadn't done that since he was 6, except for last Halloween when he brought home the Best Costume Award from school. One Saturday in June, Mrs. Lewis announced to Jennifer, "I've made the reservations for our cabin at the beach for vacation. Mom, can I invite Ellie? I figured you would, so I made sure it still has a high-day bed. I'll sleep in the high-day bed, and you and Ellie can each take a bedroom." "Thanks, Mom." They assured him that the cabin was on a secluded beach and that it would be safe for him to swim as a girl.
Ethan stayed the night with Jennifer after school on Friday, and they left Saturday morning. When the girls took their suitcases to the car, Ethan's large bag, which he had brought from home, remained right where he had placed it. They only packed his ditty bag containing soap, shampoo, toothpaste, and a toothbrush. They arrived at the cabin at 10 a.m. As they were getting out of the car, Jennifer looked up and said, "Mom, I don't remember that building over there before," pointing to a new-looking structure about 100 yards away. "It wasn't there last year." Just then, a car pulled up. "Mrs. Lewis, I'm glad you're here right on time," the driver said, stepping out of the car. "Oh, Mr. Swenson, it's you. You've got a new car." "Yeah, the old one finally gave out during the winter. Here are the keys. I was wondering if I could ask you for a small favor. My daughter just left for the hospital, and I was supposed to be here to give the key to the new cabin to the Nelsons at 11 o'clock. Could you hand it to them for me? I'd like to be there when my grandchild is born." "Oh sure, Mr. Swenson. Go ahead, your daughter will be thrilled to have you there." "Thank you. The new cabin is really nice. We had such high demand for this one that we built the new one last fall. Maybe next time, you can stay in it. I think you'd like it." "Take a look at it," he said as he got back into his car. "I guess I won't be able to swim this week after all," Ethan remarked. "I wouldn't be so sure about that. Wait until you see the swimsuit I packed for you," Mrs. Lewis replied. It was a yellow one-piece with a halter-style strap that fastened behind his neck. The sewn-in pads were perfectly positioned to mimic a 12-year-old's bust line. The bottom featured a white pleated skirt that covered all but the very back. Looking in the mirror, he had to admit there was nothing about him that suggested anything other than girl. The Nelsons were running late. The girls sat impatiently on the porch railing, swinging their legs. "Mom, I think they're here," Jennifer called as a car made its way down the road. Mrs. Lewis stepped out to meet the car. "Hi there. You must be the Nelsons. Mr. Swenson asked me to give you the key. He had to rush to the hospital because his daughter is having her first baby." "Yes, thank you. I'm Kevin Nelson, and this is my wife, Laura. The two wiggly ones in the back seat are Emily and Olivia, our daughters. My name is Joan Lewis. The girl sitting on the railing is my daughter, Jennifer, and the other girl is her friend Ellie." Mr. Nelson nodded while Mrs. Nelson leaned down for a better look and smiled. Emily and Olivia peeked out from the back window, grinning. The Nelsons took the key and drove to the other cabin. Mrs. Lewis led the girls to the beach, where they were soon joined by Emily and Olivia. They discovered that Emily was 11, almost 12, and Shelley was 8. The Nelsons turned out to be really nice. It happened that they had tried to book their usual spot, but the demand was so high that it was already full by the time they made their reservation. "We were really lucky to get this place. We just happened to see an ad for it while we were at the beach during spring break," Mrs. Nelson told Mrs. Lewis. Ethan felt a bit anxious during the first weekend, but when none of the Nelsons acted as if he was anything but a 12-year-old girl named Ellie, he relaxed. On Friday, Mrs. Lewis asked the Nelsons if they could keep an eye on Jennifer and Ellie while she ran into town. "It's a surprise for the girls. Jennifer's sister, Harriet, is coming in on the bus. The girls were separated during the divorce. This year, Jennifer went to be with her father for spring break, and I have Harriet this coming week. My ex agreed to let her come on the bus at the last minute. She packed a small bag and left at 10 o'clock. At the bus station, she met Harry. In the back seat of the car, Harry changed his shirt for a blouse and pulled a skirt over his trousers before taking them off. He slipped into a pair of panties, and when no other cars were around, crawled into the front seat. After smoothing out his skirt, he fastened his seatbelt and slipped into some flats. He pulled down the vanity mirror and brushed out his hair, skillfully teasing it into a nice girl's style. They stopped at a rest area long enough for him to apply nail polish and a touch of brown mascara. When Mrs. Lewis returned to the cabin at 3:30, she asked, "Did you two girls have fun while I was gone?" "Uh-huh. I took more pictures of Ellie," Jennifer replied. "Well, if you took many more, We might need to get an album dedicated to Ellie, her mother laughed. Ethan stayed for dinner that evening as well. Just as he was about to leave, Mrs. Lewis stopped him. You know, dear, you're one of the nicest girls among all of Jennifer's friends. You're welcome to come over any day during the Christmas break. Jennifer gets so bored while I'm at work. Mom, do you mean Ellie or Ethan? Jennifer asked. Why, I hardly know Ethan, just from those few minutes on Saturday. I can't say what kind of person Ethan is, but Ellie is a very delightful young lady. Ethan went home excited about the prospect of visiting Jennifer's place during the Christmas break. However, that excitement turned into uncertainty Sunday night. Why was Mrs. Lewis so quick to accept him as Ellie? Why was he so eager to dress up and be Ellie? Was there something wrong with him? Were there other boys who did this kind of thing? He didn't sleep well. On Monday, he called Jennifer and made up an excuse for not coming over. He had too many unanswered questions. He spent most of the day in his room. He pulled out the pictures Ellie had given him and looked through them, unsure how to process his feelings. Every time he looked at them, he couldn't help but smile. Wearing a dress made him happy. Why? Then there was the conflict between how he felt and how he acted. As Ethan, he was a typical jock who loved football, basketball, baseball, and roughhousing. Ask him to carry someone else's glass to the kitchen, and he would bristle at the idea. Housework was women's work, and he didn't want to be seen as a sissy. Yet, as Ellie, he was eager to pitch in with chores, doing the dishes and even laundry during his practice sessions. He had dived headfirst into women's work, enjoying it more than he ever expected. He recalled the inner turmoil he felt when the idea of dressing as a girl was first suggested. Then, he remembered the thrill of trying on dresses after his mother left him alone. The excitement of wearing panties and the sensation of a dress gliding over a slip as it brushed against his legs overwhelmed him. He needed to talk to someone about all of this. But who? His mother thought he had only dressed up for 3 short weekends, and she didn't even know about the panties and pantyhose. Claire was out of the question. Their best interactions had happened while she was training him to act like a girl. He knew his dad would explode if he admitted that he enjoyed his Halloween costume, let alone that he had continued to dress up. He felt trapped. The only people he could trust to show him some sympathy would be Jennifer and her mother. Could he admit to even them that he truly liked wearing girls' clothes? Oh my God! He really did like wearing girls' clothes. He was stunned by this realization. He desperately wanted to go to Jennifer's. In truth, even if Jennifer hadn't convinced her mother to allow it, he would have gone anyway. He had already been part of sneaking that experience. It was another sleepless night. Tuesday morning found Ethan wide awake at sunrise after tossing and turning. He lay in bed, watching the minute hand crawl around the clock face. He heard his dad leave for work at 7:30. A few minutes later, he got out of bed and dressed. After a quick breakfast, he rode his bike straight to Jennifer's house. Back at Jennifer's house, Ellie and Harriet crossed back over the gender line, and Ethan returned home, feeling tired yet happy. He had met someone else who understood what he thought was his own personal quirk. When Ethan arrived, he took his suitcase to his bedroom and dumped its contents into his hamper. He found his mother in the family room, watching television. "What are you watching?" he asked. "I came across the tape we made while you were practicing for your Halloween costume," she replied. As he walked into the room, he turned to the television and saw footage of himself learning to walk and figure out what to do with his hands. He smiled, recalling how awkward he had been. Now he felt confident he could pass in any situation. He was surprised to see that his mother had recorded him helping Claire with the dishes in the kitchen and that the camera was also on while he vacuumed and dusted. She stopped the tape when they reached the footage from the last Sunday evening. "You know," his mother said, "part of me wishes Ellie could come back for a visit every now and then. I kind of miss her." Ethan felt touched by her sentiment. "Mom, can I share a secret?" "Sure, dear. What do you want to tell me?" "Well, it's not about me, it's about the Lewis. Can you keep it just between us?" I don't even want them to know I told you. It's nothing bad, I just think they might be embarrassed if you knew. I kind of found out by accident. Well, if it's nothing bad, I'm not sure why you want to tell me, but as long as no one is hurt, I can keep it a secret. It turns out that Jennifer has a brother named Harry. He was there the second week at the beach. Jennifer told him about my Halloween costume, and he assumed I liked that sort of thing. Well, if I go by what I saw on the videotape, I'd say he was right, his mother interjected. Ethan continued without acknowledging her remark. He mentioned that he liked it too and that his mother lets him dress up whenever he wants. Jennifer confirmed it and even showed me some pictures of him all dressed up, some from a long time ago. I guess that's why the Lewis got divorced. Mr. and Mrs. Lewis couldn't agree on it. She thinks it's okay for him to dress up like a girl, while he doesn't. I think she still lets him dress up when he visits. Do you think Mr. Lewis is wrong? If Harry enjoys it and it doesn't hurt anyone, should he be allowed to wear girls' clothes? Well, if no one is being harmed, I don't suppose it's wrong in the sense of what's right for Harry. But it will definitely create tension between his parents, given Mr. Lewis's feelings on the matter. It's sad that Mr. and Mrs. Lewis had to divorce over this. You're right about that. It just shows the level of commitment he had to his marriage. I'm glad to say that I know your father would never be that shallow. Really? How do you know? When we were engaged, we knew a couple with teenage boys. One of the boys went to college at just 18 and they discovered he was gay while there. His father wanted to disown him, but his mother wanted to support him in his lifestyle choice. Your father, while not particularly approving of homosexuality, sided with the mother. He stated outright that parents must accept their children as they are. When a child faces a challenging time like that, he needs unified support to adjust, rather than feeling guilty about causing his parents' divorce. He promised me he would stand by me and our children if we ever faced anything like that. Your father is a man of his word. But Dad has said that homosexuality is unnatural. That's true. He thinks it is, and so do I. But that doesn't change how we feel about our children and the importance of family. That's why I agreed to marry your father. He told me his commitment would be to the family, no matter what. He promised that our children would know his love, regardless of their lifestyle choices, even if he disagreed with them. I believed him then, and I still do. I don't think Harry is gay. He told me about his girlfriends. I don't think anyone with that kind of relationship with a girl is gay. I don't think he is either. After all, I think you really enjoyed Halloween, and you're not gay. Oh, I didn't enjoy it that much. Are you sure? You certainly looked like you were having fun. I asked you directly if anything I or Claire asked you to do made you uncomfortable, and you said no, not even what Claire asked you to do. What did Claire ask me to do? Come on. You know, the underwear and everything. Ethan blushed. I didn't know you knew about that. She promised no one would find out. I hope you don't think I'm gay. I like girls, you know. I just told you I didn't think you were gay. You do realize that it was Claire who suggested I wear the panties? The first time she brought it up, I was going to refuse, but she dared me. I couldn't let her think I was chicken, so I went along with it. Honestly, I think it helped me stay in character. You can see the difference in the tape. During the first weekend, I was really boyish, but by the second weekend, when she dared me to wear the panties, I became more feminine without even trying. Well, you definitely improved the second weekend. By Halloween, you could have fooled anyone. Even most of your relatives thought you were a girl until Shirley introduced you to everyone. Even your dad had to admit you looked good as a girl when we watched the party tape. You taped the party? Yes. Want to see it? Sure. She went to the VCR and rewound the tape. As it played, he was surprised to see how much footage featured him. Almost all of Shirley's introductions were included. He couldn't believe his dad had captured that much of him in costume. Then he realized it was his mother who had been recording. He smiled as he relived that night. 8 hours of party footage had been condensed into 2 hours, showcasing every significant moment he had experienced. When the tape ended, Ethan asked, "Can I share another secret? I think I can keep another one. I sometimes wish Ellie could visit too. Watching the video just made me realize I can't deny it anymore. I fit in with the girls when I was dressed like that. And I actually enjoyed it. It felt right. Can you understand that?" he asked, his voice tinged with fear. When your father watched the tape, he noticed that too. You know what he said? No. He said, "Maybe we should move Claire's old clothes into your closet like she suggested." When I asked if he was serious, he said, "Seeing how much you enjoyed yourself on Halloween, he wouldn't be surprised if you made a habit of it." I don't think he was kidding. He seemed serious. He really said that. I sure did, his father chimed in from the doorway. He walked across the room and grabbed the remote for the VCR. He rewound the tape to the scene of Ethan sitting with his girl cousins, laughing and joking in a way that looked entirely natural. The expression on his face reflected inner peace and happiness. Look at that and tell me you weren't having the time of your life. Can you honestly say you wouldn't want to do it again? I wouldn't be surprised if you already have. Son, while I won't pretend to understand why you enjoyed it so much, I can tell you that I love you, no matter what clothes you choose to wear. My only wish is for you to grow up happy with who you become. I believe success should be measured by how you feel about yourself, not by what you do. Thanks, Dad. I really needed to hear that. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not asking you to be my part-time daughter, but if that's who you are, it won't change how I feel about you. I just ask that it remains part-time. I like having a son to go fishing with. Okay. Don't worry, Dad. I'll always be your son. I like fishing too, you know. Ethan wasn't ready to come out and admit that he was, or would be, wearing girls' clothes. But it felt nice to know he could. Ethan decided to visit Mike. After 2 weeks of fully embracing his feminine side, he needed to reaffirm his masculinity. Like most boys, he wore the same jeans for several days, only changing his underwear and t-shirt. It wasn't until Wednesday that he needed to dig into his closet again. To his surprise, he found that his usually spacious closet was half filled with Claire's old dresses, and several pairs of girls' shoes were scattered on the floor. Turning around, he saw Claire standing in his doorway, grinning like a Cheshire cat. I can tell by the look on your face that you haven't opened your closet since Monday. I bet you haven't looked in your top drawer either, have you? No. Claire walked in and opened his dresser drawer, revealing the panties and push-up bra he had worn for Halloween. You haven't changed your pajamas since then either, she said, pulling out his pajamas and revealing 3 nightgowns next to them. Mom told me about the conversation you two had while watching the Halloween video. So I figured you might as well have these things. I'm not surprised. I saw the look on your face when I got you to wear panties for the first time. With that, she smiled and left the room. On Thursday morning, he met Claire as he came out of the bathroom. "Where's Ellie?" she asked. "Still in the closet," he replied, oblivious to the pun. He spent Thursday at home, mostly staring into his open closet door. He only emerged for meals or bathroom breaks. On Friday evening, he found his mother watching television alone. Ethan sat down next to her. "Mom, did you know Claire moved her old dresses into my closet?" "No, did she?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the TV. "She also put some panties and a bra in my top drawer. And she added 4 nightgowns with my pajamas. That was nice of her to share. I hadn't considered what you might like to wear to bed," she said with a pleasant smile. On Saturday morning, Ethan woke up and put his pajamas in the hamper instead of under his pillow. He stripped his bed so that when his mom came to collect his laundry, his sheets would be ready. Then he went to pick out a new pair of pajamas for the week. His gaze fell on the nightgowns, and he picked one up. It was a lovely blue, waltz-length gown with a loose-fitting top and a full skirt. He put it back and closed the drawer, then headed to the closet to look at the dresses. One in particular caught his eye, a light rose-colored, lightweight cotton dress. He realized it would require a slip, which he found on the back of the door under his bathrobe. He had almost missed it. He chose a pair of panties and took them, along with the bra and slip, to the bathroom. His heart raced as he stepped into the shower, using Claire's shampoo and conditioner. After drying off, he applied some of his mother's dusting powder. He figured he might as well go all the way. He slipped into the panties, followed by the bra, and then put on the slip. After styling his hair with a brush and a hairdryer, he used the techniques Harriet had taught him to tease it for volume, carefully applying just the right amount of hairspray. A light coat of lipstick and mascara completed his look. Back in his bedroom, he put on the rose-colored dress and a pair of white flats. He went to the linen closet to grab some clean sheets and returned to his room to make up the bed. As he was doing this, he heard his dad leave for his golf game, knowing he wouldn't be back until late afternoon. Ethan tucked a nightgown under his pillow, then took his hamper to the laundry room. The other laundry was already there, so he sorted it by color, just like his mother had shown him before Halloween. After putting in the first load of whites, he headed to the kitchen. After breakfast, he collected the leftover dishes from his father and sister, washed them, and then settled in the family room to watch television. "Morning, Ellie," his mother said as she entered. "Did you start the laundry?" "Yes, I brought mine down and thought I might as well help out." "I see you cleaned up the kitchen for me too." "Yeah. Thank you, sweetheart. I really enjoy having a part-time daughter like you." By around 10 o'clock, Ethan was leaving the laundry room after changing a load from the washer to the dryer when he encountered Claire in the kitchen. "Ellie, it's great to see you again," she said, giving him a hug. She sounded sincere, and Ethan appreciated it. Claire even helped him fold the fresh laundry from the dryer. After that, he began wearing nightgowns to bed and found that waking up in them made the day start on a positive note. It wasn't long before he decided to wear panties even while playing baseball with the guys. The next weekend, he spent both days at Jennifer's. Jennifer asked if he planned to spend some weekdays over there, and he said he would. On Wednesday, while at home as Ellie, he felt the need to talk to his mother again. He transformed the family room into his makeshift counseling space while the afternoon soaps played in the background. "Mom, I told Jennifer about my decision to wear Claire's old clothes. How did she react?" "She thought it was great. So did her mother. Jennifer wanted me to dress up when I was over there." "Oh. And did you?" "Huh. Did you dress up over there?" "Well, I guess I did. I'm sorry, she just made it feel so okay." "What did her mother think about it?" "She liked it. She even let me borrow some mascara and complimented me on how helpful I was in the kitchen," Ethan said excitedly. "Are you sure they won't tell anyone about you?" "Oh yeah, I know about Harriet." "Who is Harriet?" "That's what they call Jennifer's brother, Harry, when he's dressed as a girl." The following weekend, Ethan woke up and dressed as usual. He went to the laundry room to start a load, as had been his routine for the past few weeks. After eating, he called Jennifer. "Hi, it's Ellie." "Ellie, does that mean your friend Mike wouldn't recognize you?" "Not the way I'm dressed." "What are you doing now?" "Oh, the same as every Saturday. I've got the laundry going and I'm just waiting for it to finish." "How long will that take?" "A while. I've got 7 loads to do." "I was hoping you could come over today. You've only been here once this week." "I know, but you know I can't spend all my time as Ellie. My dad said a part-time daughter would be fine, but he doesn't want a full-time daughter." "Too bad you couldn't come over here." "Too bad who couldn't come over here?" his mother asked as she entered from the kitchen. "Oh, I'm just talking to Jennifer." "Won't her mother let her come?" "I don't know." "Well, you could ask her if you want." "Hey, Jennifer, would your mother let you come over here?" "I think so." "Is that an invitation?" "Just a moment." "Mom, can I go over to Ellie's?" "Thanks." "Ellie, my mom said yes. How do I get to your house?" Jennifer arrived in 15 minutes and was just as helpful at Ellie's house as Ethan was at hers. Mrs. Baker invited her to stay for dinner. When Mr. Baker got home, he peeked into the kitchen, where Ellie and Jennifer were preparing the meal. "Who's that in the kitchen with Milt?" "Ellie," he whispered hoarsely. "Oh, that's Jennifer. You remember, Ethan went to the beach with her and her mother." "But Ethan is Ellie," he whispered back. "Of course. He helps me out on Saturdays by doing the laundry and stays in character as Ellie all day." "But Jennifer, she knows all about Ellie now. I spoke with her mother last week. We had a long conversation on the phone. She shared some very interesting insights about Ethan and her son Harry, as well as others like them." "Like them? Her son Harry is like Ethan?" "Yes, it turns out the library has several books on transvestites, or crossdressers, as many prefer to be called." "Transvestites? Crossdressers? Books? Why on earth were you discussing such topics?" "Because we both have sons who enjoy wearing girls' clothes, and she has been dealing with her situation longer than I have with mine. Since she was aware of Ethan's Halloween costume, she assumed he was similar to her son. In fact, she knew about it even before we could admit it to ourselves. She introduced him to Harry. So that's why he decided to make this a regular thing," he said, beginning to feel tense. "Oh, calm down. She didn't introduce him until she had every reason to believe Ethan was already comfortable with the routine." "How could she know that?" "Jennifer is very perceptive, especially having a brother who wears girls' clothes. She coaxed it out of Ethan after Thanksgiving, and then he admitted it in front of her mother." "Ethan told them? Oh my God. I assumed he would be too embarrassed to share that. Now I find out he has a girlfriend and her mother knew before I did. Who else knows?" "Of course, Harry and whoever else he decided to tell." "Is it typical for crossdressers to broadcast it to everyone?" "Calm down. We have a guest in the kitchen. It's not common for them to tell many people, but it's normal for them to seize every opportunity to dress up. I'm told that sooner or later, he's going to want to go out dressed. Now that Jennifer and her mother know, he has a safe place to go when that time comes. But above all, he needs acceptance from us and from friends. Jennifer and her mother qualify as friends who accept him. If he is going to build any self-esteem, we need to give him the space to express himself and facilitate his interactions as Ellie. It's like he has two identities, Ethan and Ellie. He needs to reconcile that duality and merge them into a single personality." Mrs. Lewis has done extensive research on the topic. She even gave me a list of books to read. Later that evening, Mrs. Baker loaded Jennifer's bicycle into her trunk and drove her home, with Ellie tagging along. Mrs. Lewis invited them inside. "It's so nice to finally meet you," Mrs. Lewis said. "Yes, it seems we have more in common than I would have guessed when we first spoke on the phone. Ellie is so lucky. I hear your husband accepts her." "Well, yes. He's not thrilled about it and is uncomfortable with the situation, but thankfully, he realizes that his children need his unconditional love." The conversation continued for about an hour, and they left with Mrs. Lewis encouraging Mrs. Baker to call or drop by any time. Over the next year, Ellie gained a lot of freedom. Before long, his mother and Mrs. Lewis were taking their daughters out for lunch and movies together.